All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the Lunch Power Hour. If you guys didn't see before, we were scrolling through some maps where we challenged community members to create a map of their neighborhood, showing some bright spots and then some opportunities for improvement. So thank you for everybody who did that. So we did that because that is one of the activities that we do with young people with our Design Your Neighborhood program, as a way for them to be able to kind of navigate how their neighborhood works and then show us what they think. So we would love actually to hear from people in the audience who made a map. So if you are in the audience and you submitted a map, we would love for you to raise your hands, and we'll go through how to do that and then answer a few questions so we can hear more about what you submitted. So first we'll look at how to raise your hand on Zoom. Okay, so in the participants button, just click raise your hand on the bottom right hand of the screen. And then these are the two questions that we would like for you to answer. What is your favorite part of your neighborhood? What is something you would like to see changed? Okay, so I'll go in the order that I have them first. Floorbank Finkelson, excuse me if I didn't pronounce that right. So we will switch the screen to your map and then you can answer those two questions for us. Okay, we'll actually go ahead and go to Alice Johnson.
Hi. So, why am I so echoey? Because it's recording in this one. Look, here it is. Okay, here's the map. And then you need actually the other person that you were about to ask.
Do you want to ask what the questions were again and answer the questions, children?
So Alice, the questions were that what do you want changed, and what's your favorite part? Okay. My favorite part is my friend's house, which is
Where is
like
Eve's house.
So, who is down the street that I live on? Because it says our house, and then it says Eve's house. She's my friend. Yeah.
just go like this.
Just
press the no
That's
sign.
my favorite part. And I don't really know what I changed.
That's microphone. Yeah. Microphone. It's zero.
Exactly. Well then just put it well,
Excuse
Can
me
you
for a
go on?
second.
Can you do yours then, please?
no, she unmuted me.
I know Well, keep talking, Alice. I'm trying to figure out how to mute mine.
No, yours is just strange.
Can you turn yours off then?
Okay, and I don't really know what I changed because I really like this. Well. Yeah, that's because I picked that one. Yay.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Alice. That's great that you have liked your neighborhood. So nothing that you would change, just how good how it is. No, nothing. Okay, great.
Yeah, I really like it.
Thank you. So was there anybody else that made a map, or even if you didn't make a map, we can open those questions up to anybody, something that they like about their neighborhood and something they would want to see changed. We'll do one more check for hands. Okay, next we've got Remy Lynch.
Melody.
Hey, Remy. Great. We're getting your map up. Hold on just a second while we find that and get it up. Okay, great. Go ahead.
So my map, I mapped out a route I take walking to the grocery store during this isolation period. And I find myself walking along Fatherland Street because I love the landscaping and the vegetation that's going on along the street. The neighbors along that route really put a lot of care into how the different variety of plants and how they present their yards and their landscapes. And I really enjoy having the opportunity to walk through that and experience the different types of plant life that also incorporates different animals and the insects and all the different environments and ecosystems that are going along that walk. So it's a nice way to get out of the house and see a lot of variety of plants. But something that I would like to see fixed along that same route is the drainage system, like the storm drains. A lot of them are clogged with trash and leaves and debris. So I think it'd be a nice idea to have a neighborhood cleanup where people can go out and, clean up the sides of the streets, get that litter and clutter out of the storm systems so our drainage system can work properly.
Okay, great. Thanks, Remy. That's great that there's also a really tangible solution with that. That's something that people can actually get out and do to really make a great change. Okay, so I'll look for hands again if anyone else is interested, map or not at this point. Going once, going twice. Okay, well, oh, there we go. Yes, okay, we've got a David Padgett. So David, we're getting your map up and we'll be right back.
Okay. Oh, hello. I have it under a different map. It should be a map under Lauren Carruthers. Is it populated? If not, I can can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're still looking to see if we've got that map. Okay. At this point, I'm not sure. So we had one more hand, so I think we'll jump to that next person. And then was it Lauren? If we end up finding that, we'll go back to you. So
Okay, got you.
yeah, sorry about that. If you want to message us in the chat, then about where that might be. Actually, I don't think we do have one under the name of Lauren. But yeah, if you want to message us in the chat about where that might be, let us know. But for now, we'll move on to, I think there was a Greg, and that will be the last one we have time for right now. So.
Hi.
Hi, Greg. Okay, we'll find your map.
My map is Chicago. It's a neighborhood we live in, and we live in. This is not far. This is probably 5 blocks from our house, and it is a intersection of 6 corners. We call it 6 corners. It's an intersection of 3 roads, and the issue is, crossing from, if you want to cross from 1 to 4, you've got to go 3 cross sections. So it's very interesting, and is this a problem in many areas? I don't know, but just thought that was just an interesting. Is there a solution to this problem? So, is this, I think in Japan, there's a famous cross section that, and they stop all traffic and everybody crosses at once. It's just an all one crossing. So is it something like this could happen at the same, can this be done? Maybe, 2 streets are stopped at once and then everybody can cross it at multiple times. I'm not sure. So it's just something that, I wanted to draw my attention to, and,
Yeah. Yeah, well, thanks. That was a beautiful drawing. Definitely that perspective was such a great way to help us understand what that experience could be like. And I know, somebody put something about Broadway, but those scrambles on Broadway sounds like that's the idea you're getting. Well, that's the closest thing that we would have in Nashville to the idea that you're getting.
Okay, I got it. Right.
Yeah, pedestrian scramble. There we go.
Run.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I've seen those videos in other countries. The Nashville one is a smaller version, but maybe it would work in Chicago.
Maybe. Well, we need that, right?
Yeah, great. Well,
thanks. It was fun.
So much. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I will switch over to telling us some more information about our youth education program, Design Your Neighborhood. Okay, so Design Your Neighborhood, like I said, it's our youth education initiative at the Nashville Civic Design Center, and it was inspired by something that the city of Chicago did back in the early 1900s as a response to explosive growth that they were experiencing, much like Nashville has been experiencing. And so they created what they called the Plan of Chicago. That was a document to guide the growth of the city. And they didn't just create the plan, but they taught it in their public schools. So every 8th grader for a semester in economics was taught the Plan of Chicago. So that is the big idea behind and what it was one of the things that inspired this program. And we essentially are attempting to provide similar education system-wide for our public school system. So some more about what that looks like. We seek to develop 3 things in students. So knowledge of what we call the built environment. So anything planned or built by people. Awareness of how that impacts issues and ultimately quality of life for our residents. And then empowerment to be agents of change. So not just sitting on the information they have, but knowing how to take that and use it as a tool to advocate for their community. So we are currently teaching 2 topics that we felt were, of course, really a lot of people in Nashville are really feeling this, very pressing, and especially young people can personally relate to. So that's transportation, which is our 7th grade projects, and affordable housing. So I will show just a couple images of highlight some of the projects that we have had these past few years. A lot of podcasts happening in classes where students are reporting on that topic, and not just reporting, research or news stories, but also how their personal experiences relate to that. The next is some of our projects are having students look at the mile radius around their school and looking at walking and biking opportunities to reduce CO2 emissions and create healthier communities. We also have our art classes that are designing art that represents the identity of their neighborhood to go into transportation infrastructure. And so we have an exciting opportunity where some of this artwork is planned to be put on, potentially we go the bus cards and the bus benches. So we're looking forward to seeing that artwork in the community soon. And then the last one that I'll highlight is tiny homes as a way to address homelessness. So students look at their neighborhoods and say, okay, where could we potentially fit in tiny homes for the purpose of homeless shelter? So these take the form of 3-week projects, and they're aligned to teacher standards. So this meets their requirements. It's not an additional thing. And they all go through the design thinking process, no matter what subject matter they're in. So this is a look at, I just did some highlights, but this is a look at everything we have. So we have 5 projects for 7th grade that address transportation from all of the core subjects, and then 8th grade, their topic is affordable housing. And these units were written with teachers, of course, for teachers, and then also with the Cumberland River Compact and our research partners at Vanderbilt. So we provide a curriculum, like I said, and then the supports that we provide teachers are classroom volunteers, which is a way any professional around can get involved, is going into classrooms and giving students project feedback. We also host trainings for teachers where we really try to deepen their knowledge on the issues of transportation and affordable housing, and of course prepare them to actually use the curriculum. So we also provide a civic engagement platform that has so far taken the form of a community showcase where we invite city leaders and design professionals to come and hear about student projects through a gallery. We have podcast listening stations, and then also have a student panel discussion. So this year, we were in 23 schools this year, and this is a look at where they all are. So all different school types and school locations. And then the 4 years that we've been in schools, this has been our metrics. That 2018-19 year is when we launched our 7th and 8th grade curriculum. And then this school year, this is what we were, the number of students and teachers that signed up to participate. Of course, COVID has impacted this some, as it has everything, but this is where we stand this year. And as you see, the teacher number grew from 31 to 65 in just that 1 year, which to us was, that was solely due to the teacher word of mouth, which is something that we were excited about. So the total student number we were reaching this year was 3,500. And that's out of what we estimate to be about 12,500 7th and 8th graders specifically in Nashville. So as I mentioned, the goal is for this eventually to be to every student. And so we are about fourth to a third of the way to that goal right now. Beyond metrics, we're measuring that impact through a partnership with a research team at Vanderbilt Peabody College, where they're measuring these factors in students through surveys and through interviews as well. So far, what we have found to be some strengths are awareness of local issues, and then interest in educating others. So we're seeing students really want other people, including the adults in their life, to have an understanding like they do of these issues. So next, the rest of the program is mostly going to be hearing from students, teachers, and DYN alum, where hopefully these impacts are going to show through as they get to tell their stories and their experience with the program. So first, we're going to watch a video. It's a mini documentary that Teach for America put out. So we'll watch that. And as you watch, would love for people in the audience to put in the chat their answer to this question. So what did you learn about how affordable housing is impacting young people? So as you watch, once again, if you learn something about how affordable housing is impacting young people, please put it in the chat.
It's crazy. I've never seen this place so quiet before. It started happening about 2-3 years ago. A couple of new people, I think, bought out this place. And then they started renovating it. As it was getting renovated, prices were going up. A lot of people started moving out.
Historically, people of color have not been represented in the design decisions for National Tennessee. We've been caught by surprise. I think if students are involved and they're aware and they know what's going on, I think what we'll see happen in the long run is that students will be able to attend those meetings. There'll be some of those who are actually doing design, and there'll be some of those who will participate in the decision making and have a direct impact on what's happening in Nashville.
Welcome to Nashville, where growth has been explosive, with more than 10,000 people moving here each year. The average family's rent rose last year by more than 8%, pushing many Nashville students and their families out of their homes and neighborhoods to the outskirts.
I lived here with my grandma, my sister, and my little cousin. This is where I had a lot of my first experience. Sorry.
This is Carrick Shelton, who should be in college right now. But when rising rent forced his family from his home and Carrick had to change schools, he lost the support of his college counselors and missed his application deadlines.
I expected to be at Arizona. I want to get an architecture degree, but now I am in an apartment with my stepsister. All I have is my high school diploma. I'm not really in college. My main focus is getting us utensils, getting us food, make sure we have a couch, make sure I have a bed, and paying rent monthly. There used to be 2
Mina used to live a 15-minute drive from his school. But after his family chose to buy a home in Nashville's outskirts instead of paying rising rent, Mina faces a new challenge as he tries to finish high school.
I wake up around like 5:15, 5:30. Didn't leave the house about 5:45. Wake up so early so I can avoid like the traffic. If I get out later than that, it takes about an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes. The hour that I would spend in traffic, I spend it sleeping at my friend's house. I just park right in front of her house. I either watch the sunrise or go to sleep. Today I'm gonna go to sleep.
Mina and Carrick have a better understanding of what gentrification is doing to them than many students do. Both interned at the Nashville Civic Design Center. nonprofit where citizens can influence the city's design.
First time I met Melody was in my 9th grade year. That's when one of my teachers introduced me to her for Nashville Civic Design Center in their internship, because I was letting everybody know that architecture is what I want to be when I grow up.
Both Carrick and Mina were in our Design Your Neighborhood summer internship. Kids from all different backgrounds and locations in the city were coming together to learn about design. The big idea is to have students involved in making a physical change or having a voice in some built environment decision in their neighborhood.
We were working on the project on looking for ways to help the community around where I went to school, where I still go to school. A lot of people were thinking about affordable housing, but my group and I, we thought of solar sidewalks, which we thought it would help both the community in affordable housing, paying for rent. It would help with global warming.
The center created a curriculum called Design Your Neighborhood that introduces students to the fundamentals of how cities are planned. This year, about 4,000 students in 20 middle schools are designing projects for their neighborhoods. As lead designer of the curriculum, it's Melody Gibson's job to get it to every 7th and 8th grader in Metro Nashville public schools.
We're helping students understand like kind of root causes of problems that particularly influence like a lot of communities that are being targeted for gentrification.
For teachers, like Nashville native Latanya Davenport, it's a way to give students tools to understand the forces that have shaped their neighborhoods in the past and prepare them to be advocates for their future.
We are in North Nashville. We're in the heart of North Nashville. So this is all a part of the history of Black Nashville. Yes, I'm very, very proud to be a part of that history. Jefferson Street was just epic. It was like the center of Black culture at the time. I can remember as a little girl, just a lot of the names that were big in Black Nashville. They were big for us as people of the community, but they were also big because it was ownership of Jefferson Street. They owned the business that they had on Jefferson Street. We were able to build dreams because I felt like we were embraced. And it's not always like that.
North Nashville was one example of how urban planning has really hurt communities. Back in the 60s, when they were putting in the initial interstates, a pretty large exchange was placed just right in the middle of a historically Black community. Think of it kind of like a quilt. It like literally ripped through that quilt.
More than 620 homes, 27 apartment houses, and 6 churches were demolished to build the interstate that dead-ended 50 streets in the business and cultural center of North Nashville.
This street, 16th, would have gone straight over where the interstate is, over to Jefferson Street. And so I could have walked to the cleaners over there. I could have walked to Fisk University. It's still here. They didn't even bother to tear it up and put grass or anything there. They just left it there. But that's a symbol of we don't care about you and you don't matter.
Much of Nashville's redevelopment has its roots in the segregation and redlining of neighborhoods that dictated where Black families could buy homes. Home values were depressed, and now developers can buy relatively inexpensive properties and flip them. Many are building 2 tall, skinny houses where a single home once stood.
We've had a mass exodus of people of color in the last 5 or 6 years. I feel sad. I feel sadness when I walk through and see all of the changes, particularly when I saw my childhood home. That was difficult. I think they finally put something on our lot. Oh my God, it's a skinny house. And they put 2 where there was 1. This was one lot. My house was right here. This was my house. I gotta call my mom and tell her that it's no longer this place that was home, held all these memories, and now you have these 2, I call them skinny houses. You just have these 2 units there, and and you see them everywhere, and people who are moving in, there's no sense of what was there. As a resident in Nashville, everything that's happening now makes me feel like it's time to go. I can't live and enjoy the lifestyle that I think I deserve after having been a servant here for so long. And so I just think it's time to go somewhere where I can fit in, you know, belong. One of the biggest impacts of the Design Your Neighborhood curriculum is the ability for students to come back and to represent for their communities. I see my students as future leaders. They don't realize it yet, but my message to them would be to continue to stand for what you believe, to not be afraid to advocate, not just for yourself, for the underdog, for others.
I know students that I was with, that's the future of Nashville. They were so eager to change Nashville, to make it a better place for everyone.
I want to go to Arizona State. I am determined to go there, no matter how long it takes. I want to get my architecture degree because I want to come back and actually make my own type of firm that does like NCDC and get more kids involved in architecture. The people that are going to make a more equal Nashville are people like me. I believe it's possible. Is it really hard? Yes. Is it going to take some time? Yeah, but sometimes the best things are worth waiting for.
Okay, so I'm about to check this chat, but if you guys haven't put anything in the chat for that question, but you want to, this is another opportunity for that. Okay. So if nobody else has anything on that, we'll jump to our panel. So we've got a panel of, sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, so we will actually roll into that same question and some more questions with a panel of some alum and then teachers that I'll let them introduce themselves once we jump over to that. So we can jump to the panel now. Okay, see, we've got Shanice, we got Brittany, Liz, great. So I'll start by saying, so Mina was going to come to the panel, couldn't make it anymore, but he wrote in the answers to his questions that that I'll read to represent him while we're on this. So if you guys could just go around and just introduce yourself, tell us like what your connection is to Design Your Neighborhood, well, of course, your name, and then your connection to Design Your Neighborhood and your occupation. So we'll start with Shanice is the first one on my screen, so we'll start with her.
Sweet. Well, hello everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Shanice Brown. I participated in Design Your Neighborhood 2011, the inaugural internship, and I went on to pursue my degree in architecture, and now I am a designer at Tuck Hidden Architects.
Okay, great, thank you. And then next is Brittany.
Hello. At Antioch Middle School, and I've been doing Design Your Neighborhood graphic design project for now 2 years.
Okay, so that was a little staticky. So Brittany, if y'all didn't hear that, Brittany's a teacher at Antioch Middle, who's an art teacher that's been doing Design Your Neighborhood, teaching the projects for a few years. Okay, next is Liz.
Hi, I'm Liz Seaman. I teach 8th grade English at Weston Middle, and this was my first year doing the project with my English class.
All right, thank you guys. And then Mina, just a little more background on him. Mina was taught Design Your Neighborhood in one of his classes, and then he also did a summer internship with us. And he's a senior at Lead Academy High School who is graduating, headed to college next year. So that is about Mina. So we'll start with the first question. Is we just heard stories about how Nashville's affordable housing crisis is impacting young people. How have you noticed Nashville's limited transportation options impacting young people and affordable housing? So whoever wants to jump in and go first, actually I can start out with Mina, so I'll do that. I'll read Mina's response to that, and then if you guys, one of y'all could jump in on that. So Mina says the rising housing prices are forcing people to move out of their homes and move to surrounding cities that have less opportunities for the family as a whole. Families are forced to leave their homes early every morning to make it to their jobs in the city on time, and younger families are forced to readjust to their new surrounding societies while having the feeling of homesickness. Families are moving from a home to a house. These two words show just a small portion of the discomfort families have to face. Younger citizens of Nashville and the cities surrounding it are held back from their full potential. I have many friends who don't have cars and would love to have a way to get into the city to find either jobs or school programs that they are interested in, but cannot because they do not have a steady source of transportation. All right, so if anybody else wants to jump in on that.
I would have to totally agree with everything that was said. It really, you can see how it's uprooting families, and it's just really interesting. And also for me, coming back into the city of Nashville and trying to find my own place to stay, and also noticing that the culture is different as well. It's just really interesting. And then also how students are uprooted and then also displaced. And then it really affects not only their mental health, but you really don't know how they're going to be when they adjust, especially if they have to attend a new school.
Okay, great, thank you.
I can see, like, my school, for example, Antioch it's like really, really overfull. Like, it's overfilled with students. So I can kind of see, because of the movement, a lot of people are moving out of the city into areas like Antioch. So it's like more populated, and our school actually can't contain the amount of kids that we actually have. So I'm kind of seeing some schools not having as many students and being like more empty buildings, whereas the schools that are on the outskirts of Nashville are like really, 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 really full.
Yeah, I agree with what Brittany was saying. I think the makeup of our schools is starting to look different as people start to move around. And I think transportation comes into play there because kids might want to go back to their old school. And we have the lottery system and there is a spot for them, but they're unable to do so because of transportation issues.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I know. To reiterate that lottery system, so many schools in Nashville are choice, and families do have a choice, but as she said, you know, if there's not transportation, then of course that limits that choice. So thank you guys. So next question is excuse me, wrong one. Okay, so Design Your Neighborhood isn't just about giving students knowledge. It's about equipping them for leadership, civic engagement, and future careers. Beyond acquiring new knowledge, how did DYN impact you? What did it motivate you to do?
I'm sorry, whoever.
Go for it.
I was gonna say, Design Your Neighborhood, the materials really gave me the tools that I needed to have these hard conversations with my students that I know that they wanted to have and that was impacting them. I'm at West End Middle, so we're kind of near downtown. I have a lot of kids who are impacted by gentrification in that they are being forced to move. And then I have a lot of kids who have moved into gentrified areas. And so there was kind of both of those sides fighting each other. And so being able to use these materials and use these texts to open up that conversation and really understand each other, it was just a great tool for my kids.
To piggyback off of what you said, as an alum of Design Your Neighborhood, the program really equipped me with the tools that I still use to this day. It helped me gain the confidence that I needed. It also reassured me of my abilities, what I'm capable of, and then also my potential as well. Not only that, but it also introduced me to various careers within my interest, I guess you can say, math, science, and then also just being creative and artistic. And so, yeah, it just really helped me highlight my voice, gave me the tools that I still use to this day as inspiring architect. So.
Great. Yeah, and then I guess teachers, if there's anything you've seen, like how it's impacted your students, we would love to hear that as well.
I think for my students, because I still have a lot of students that have always lived in Antioch, I think it gives them an idea about what's going on within actual, like within Nashville city limits that they maybe weren't aware of.
Yeah, great. And so just to represent Mina, he said, Design Your Neighborhood not only expanded my understanding of how the world around me works, but showed me that my voice is heard and it can help cause change. After Design Your Neighborhood, I went on to get involved with the Mayor's Youth Council and TIRC, so Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Coalition. So yeah, and then also I'll just reiterate, you know, Mina's been a leader in his class and his school as well since participating in DYN. So next question. Within a matter of months, our world has become a very different place. Why is it important for Design Your Neighborhood to still be accessible to young people amidst the pandemic?
I think it taught my kids just a really important lesson about access, and that everyone is not afforded the same things in their communities, especially right now when our resources are limited and our transportation is limited. I think it's really important for them to realize that all communities look different and the resources and the things that are available to them are not the same everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I guess I would just add highlighting that lack of maybe in your neighborhood, and then also creating or noticing the differences, and then maybe hopefully if the, noticing the differences, and then hopefully the students will, of course, have the voice and potentially advocate for those changes in their neighborhood from amidst this unconventional times.
I agree with everything that was said already, that it just kind of gives kids the knowledge to understand that not everyone has access, especially right now.
Yeah, and I'll add Mina's response. He said, Design Your Neighborhood should be accessible to the public because during this time is when people want to learn more about their surroundings and how it is affecting their day-to-day lives. So I think he's getting it, you know, people are wanting to know more about their communities because it is, you know, a time of kind of a lot of unknowns. So, and then also, you know, the conversations about what we're teaching transportation and affordable housing are changing amidst this. And, you know, we want students and everybody to understand how those impacts are changing and who's being impacted and keep that awareness going, although the reasons are changing. Okay, last question that I have for you guys. Think about the future of Nashville. How do you envision a more equitable city?
Well, I think it starts with background knowledge, and I think that's something that I saw with my 8th graders, that giving them all the knowledge of what was going on allowed them to kind of think about how they could advocate for change. So just first of all, giving everyone access to this information to kind of be on the same page going forward. And I think that's what all of this is doing in the schools. It's putting kids on the same page. It's giving them the information, helping them advocate for themselves, giving them the tools that they need to be leaders in their community going forward.
Yeah, I would totally agree with everything that she said. Definitely.
I'll jump in and say Mina's response. He said, in Nashville's future, I see a more diverse Broadway that doesn't only have country music, but also has different ethnicities that define the Nashville that its citizens know. I also see a much bigger transportation system that extends to many outer cities around Nashville, and that I hope will reduce the rising traffic in Nashville. So that is Mina's vision for the future of Nashville.
Yeah, I think more public transportation that's more accessible would be, obviously they voted it down, but would be better. And just like with social isolation right now, like even in my neighborhood where I live, the lack of just sidewalks to even get out and just walk around is even more noticeable when you're not going very far from your house.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, yeah, well, thank you guys so much. I'm going to open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions for any of myself or the panelists, then this is the time to ask that. So you guys can just type it in the chat box and we'll get to your questions. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and go through our last slides. If any question comes up, then we'll go back to that. But I will switch it over to the slides again. Okay, so as we've heard, Design Your Neighborhood is giving young people a way to understand the issues, and then also the tools and the language to articulate the problem and to be a part of the community and be a part of the solution. And something that we found interesting is that 22% of Davidson County's population is 18 or under. So almost a fourth of the people that live here are 18 and under. And then if we think, how well are they represented in the conversations that Design Your Neighborhood is talking about right now? And so one of our goals is to amplify the voice of the young people. Like we saw in the video, the stories that they shared were specific to how a young person experiences the city versus adults. And so, we hope that this is the city's way of hearing their informed voices about what's going on. So just a couple of things amidst COVID that we are doing to make sure that there's not going to be a gap in students understanding these things is reformatting our curriculum for distance learning. We're offering our teacher trainings virtually, and all of this is in process. Just to give some perspective on it, we have 140 hours of curriculum that we're attempting to provide additional resources to help with distance learning. And then we also are updating the actual content to reflect the changing conversations of housing and transportation since we've experienced a tornado and now COVID-19. So always making sure that the content is relevant and up with the times. So our funding model, $5,000 allows us to provide all 10 of those projects to one school. And so we have a goal of raising $5,000 through this big Payback fundraiser, so we can fund at least one of our schools. This will be for that next school year. So any money that you give today will go directly into one of these schools and letting this continue into next year. So I will jump back over to the chat to see if anything's come up. And if not, please check out the chat in order to in order to donate. If I can find, there we go. Okay, we have a question. Is the primary point of contact for students to become involved in this via a teacher or principal? So it will be either one. We mostly work directly with teachers versus principals, but we, you know, definitely up for both of those. And it would just be a matter of our website, designyourneighborhood.org, has ways for you to contact us. I know my email is just melody@civicdesigncenter.org, and we'll be happy to use either of those avenues to get people involved. All right. Yeah, well, thank you, everyone. If there's no other questions, which I'm not seeing any right now, yeah, that will end the program a little bit early. But yeah, so there's just look in that chat box to donate. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panelists, for coming out and letting us tell the story in this new format about Design Your Neighborhood.
We did have one last individual who would like to present their map.
Okay, great. Absolutely. Okay, is it Theodora?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, so my name is Theodora, and I just wanted to present on like the healthcare facilities around my area. That's a very important asset in our community that we should also recognize. So that's what I decided to map. And also about the questions, what's my favorite part of my neighborhood? I like my home because, and also I just like my neighborhood where I live because the people around me are really nice. There's a very nice sense of community around where I live. And also, what is something you would like to see change? One thing that I would like to see, like not change per se, but like an improvement, is more private owned businesses around my neighborhood. And also transportation. It's very hard like getting public transport around where I live. So it would be a nice change to, like, when I just want to go to somewhere, it would be nice to see public transportation around to get me to where I want to get to. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. That was great to hear from perspective of a neighborhood with healthcare facilities. So yeah, thank you, Theodora. And we have time if anybody else wants to chime in on those questions about your neighborhood. Otherwise, we can go ahead and end. Okay. All right, well, once again, thank you everybody that participated and submitted maps. Thank you everyone for attending, and if you donated, of course, thank you so much for that. That is going directly to these teachers and students. Okay.